As always seemed likely from the 1-2 punch release of the Close to You shorts, Nintendo has now followed up with the third and final punch, confirming the answer to the mystery of Close to You. They explained, "We hope you enjoyed the two Close to You videos released on October 7 and 8. The second video is available on Nintendo Today, a free app available on your smart device. These are the first short films created by Nintendo Pictures Company Limited. Nintendo Pictures will continue to explore new creative possibilities through video content." So in this video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about all this. I was going to repost the video from yesterday without the images that caused the issue, and I have put this at the end of the video. It's a little dated, but still has a lot of information which I think will be of interest for those who haven't seen it. But what's interesting, first of all, is that this announcement is actually a bit of a departure from what Nintendo Pictures have been doing until now, because they really have been concentrating on full motion video, it would seem, for other Nintendo games, and indeed finishing off contracts that they had for prior games when they were part of Dynamo Pictures before Nintendo bought them out. For example, Nintendo Pictures was credited on Death Stranding. Still, the fact that many instantly made the comparison between Close to You and Pixar or Illumination must be gratifying for Nintendo, and I think it's actually quite a clever idea to do a version both with and without Pikmin, and thereby make one piece of work serve two possibilities and still get a good amount of attention. They are clear that these are the first short films, meaning that future shorts will surely follow. I mentioned previously the possibility of shorts running before one of Nintendo's motion pictures, and this still seems even likelier now, although whether there'll be one before the April Super Mario Galaxy film, I am less sure, and might come back to this in another video. I wouldn't expect Nintendo Pictures to move away from development for games, though. In fact, I've long suggested that their biggest proofs of concept opportunities would be two games we expect to be relatively forthcoming. Firstly, the next 3D Mario, which would be the first after the films started releasing. It would be an obvious move to try to increase the story elements in the game with some kind of stronger animated features, and it's consistent with the way that Mario Kart and Donkey Kong Bonanza focused on expressive characters. But the Nintendo franchise I really think would benefit here is The Legend of Zelda. If there's one major area that the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom games lacked, it's expressive, nuanced acting from the characters, and if they do remake Ocarina of Time, those cutscenes are established and iconic, meaning that they could make something really magical without quite the same need to liaise with the remake team, as theoretically they're both working to the same blueprint, and so they could have some degree of operational independence. Or they could concentrate mainly on Pikmin. I don't expect this to happen, as I think Nintendo will want to be diversified, but Pikmin obviously represents a good way to get themselves up to speed, and in certain respects it's an ideal franchise, as it has fewer games, and yet is clearly one where they want to keep the plate spinning. What better way to keep it in the public eye than to drop a succession of shorts? I'm sure I will return to talk Nintendo Pictures, but that's it for this short reaction. What follows is the original video that I put up yesterday without any images for those of you who missed it, and although a couple of things are dated, there's still a fair amount about their perception of Pikmin, which I think is still quite relevant. If you already saw the video, thank you so much, and I will see you soon. If not, get yourself into the mindset of 24 hours ago, and here goes. So no more than 24 hours after the original video, Nintendo has updated Close to You to include the Pikmin, but as yet with no further context about what all this is about. This video will just have a few more thoughts building on my prior video yesterday. Now, from the pacing, it feels like they are building up to providing more context, perhaps even this week, with the 1-2 punch of reveals on Tuesday and Wednesday, meaning a Thursday drop connected to this has to be a fair chance. I was a little surprised that they confirmed it so quickly, but then again, I can also see that they needed to keep up the momentum of the announcement. I wonder if they also felt that they let the Emio mystery sit a little too long, with speculation running wild about Bloober Team and all sorts. Plus, while Emio was really quite opaque indeed, the Pikmin were more strongly hinted at yesterday. Arlo did a fantastic Topic Arlo video explaining where all the hidden Pikmin were. As I said yesterday, I thought it was 70% likely to connect to Pikmin, and honestly, I do think it's a great way to show the concept that the Pikmin are everywhere but just out of being noticed. What I will say is that for those perplexed about the method of this announcement taking place and how it fits into the lore, this does seem to be something they have built towards with the Pikmin franchise for some time. After finishing the video yesterday, I decided to dip back into some of the previous developer interviews, including the last Pikmin 4 developer interview, because there were some pretty significant quotes here from Miyamoto and the other developers. Miyamoto said, "I consider video games to be just one of the worlds in which Pikmin live, while other Pikmin inhabit our reality. Right now you can find Pikmin in Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Japan and Universal Studios Hollywood." Yuji Kando also noted, "By setting the camera angle at near ground level, you'll look up at the objects in the environment and see things from a Pikmin's perspective instead of a human's. We wanted to emphasize how small Pikmin were by showing how the world looks to them. As we developed the first 3 Pikmin games, we formed an idea of how the environment should look, but over time we became less conscious of how small the Pikmin were, and the environment was often designed to facilitate the gameplay. When we showed Miyamoto-san the prototype, he said, 'Something doesn't seem right.' Then, when we saw the characters pass under the slats of a wooden pallet in another prototype, a ray of light was shining through it nicely, and we finally got a sense of how small the Pikmin really were." End quote. Now, I do think that this emphasis on the different perspectives, the Pikmin perspective and the human perspective, is something that they have also looked to harness in this particular short film. Miyamoto also responded, "I've been saying for a long time that the Pikmin games tend to stand out due to their world and characters, but I think it's also interesting as a game genre. Furthermore, I want people to have this real sense that Pikmin are all around us, that they aren't just fantasy creatures. Pikmin have no set age or nationality. They have a unique presence as creatures that exist somewhere on Earth. That's not the case with Mario. We know he's of Italian descent in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but it's not like you can bump into him walking down the street because he lives in the world of Mario. In fact, I consider Pikmin to be Nintendo's most global characters. Since the promotional campaign we launched over 10 years ago, we've been saying Pikmin are all around us. I think we've finally reached a point where people can find Pikmin in various places, not just in their imaginations. I hope more and more people become aware of Pikmin and play Pikmin games." End quote. Now, with Miyamoto's interest in film over the last decade or so, it does make perfect sense for him now to spearhead a project like this, and with Pikmin being so close to his heart. And it seems to me that they've sketched out how it could fit in with some kind of Pikmin continuity, specifically that there are so many different kinds of Pikmin with different backstories, and therefore they could set a Pikmin project at pretty much any point in time, whether in the actual world or in another potentially post-apocalyptic version of the Earth. One interpretation of his Otherworlds comment is, of course, that they will move into a Pikmin animated film, and this was something that the Nintendo Life article on it suggested back at the time when he made the comments. The thing is, this wouldn't need to be a full 90-minute epic necessarily. Having a surprise Pikmin short in front of a major movie feels very Nintendo, and so perhaps a short like this could be something intended to go before the next Mario movie as an extra. After all, while people are eyeballing Mario, what better time to also promote to them Pikmin? However, the focus of these efforts is, as Shuntaro Furukawa has emphasized a few times now, to draw people back to Nintendo's heartland hardware-software activities. Therefore, if there is a Pikmin short in April next year, I would expect at least one more Pikmin game to coincide with it. I don't necessarily mean a huge new game, probably a smaller scale spin-off and a deluxe version of Pikmin 4, and probably they might not be announced until after the film releases. But if Metroid, Donkey Kong, and Kirby were their first wave of promotional activities for IPs in 2025, it makes a lot of sense to put Pikmin at the heart of their second wave for 2026, given how they've really pushed the franchise as one of their core IPs over recent years. A few other things to add to the discussions yesterday. First of all, could Eighting have space to mount a separate Pikmin project given that they released a completely separate game quite recently? Now, I think the answer is yes. The key people on Pikmin 3 Deluxe moved over to Pikmin 4, and it remains their only credit since. Eighting have 270 staff, so they can manage concurrent projects, and according to Moby Games, their newest title had 233 credits, including voice actors and a significant group working on the opening movie. Therefore, it seems that there are easily enough more people still to be working on Pikmin. Incidentally, the fact that Eighting will put so much effort into an opening movie is itself rather interesting. Now, Nintendo are not Eighting, but you can see how the development teams might be on the same page with having a big, warm-hearted animation to set the scene for a forthcoming game. Either way, I think it is likely that Eighting have one permanent Nintendo-facing development group in the same way that we've seen with Mercury Steam, Grezzo, and others. Look, I still think on balance a game announcement is the likelier outcome from this. Pikmin doesn't really have enough of an audience profile to generate hype solely on its own, so it benefits, like Famicom Detective Club before it, from that little bit of an extra push. But I don't think they're doing it just for the sake of showing Pikmin. Now, a show or set of shorts is plausible, but if the aim is to get people talking about Pikmin and excited about the creatures, this really implies that they want to convert these people into Pikmin buyers, and the best way to do that is with a game. On balance, therefore, I think there's now a 50% chance that we will see a Pikmin title announced for Switch, Switch 2 and/or mobile by the end of October, and it feels pretty likely that they could wrap up the mystery as soon as tomorrow with a game announcement. One other thing. Note how the adapted version is only on Nintendo Today. I keep saying and people don't buy it, but I think they still want to push Nintendo Today and see great potential in it, even if many of the fan base don't necessarily. Sure, it may seem like a bit of a gimmick and of little interest to those who hoover up Nintendo news from the vast Nintendo web ecosystem, but keeping people connected and engaged with Nintendo is a priority for them, and this gives them the perfect method to do so, particularly for those people who are perhaps less engaged with Nintendo on a regular basis. I'm not saying Nintendo will never call time on the app if they really don't think it's working for them, but I wouldn't expect to see them move past it until at least after the Zelda movie is out, when they will have really tested it to destruction. That's all for this video. Please do check out some of these others on screen and do consider checking out the Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.